Which hospital is your wife in?
Off General. We started off in Mercy, Buffalo, but
Yeah, I agree with you.
we ended up going there after UB. We had a consult at UB neurological surgery department, and they sent us back to. They said go to Buff General. Treat
And
you.
we're live.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First, I'd like to point out where our fire exits are, through the door to my left and the door through which we all came in today. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right on time.
We have a roll call attendance, please.
Member Galvin.
Here.
Member Overholt.
Present.
Member Menard.
Here.
Member Yarborough.
Present.
Acting Chairman Patrick Delaney.
Present. And the first legal notice.
Please take notice that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Depew will hold a public hearing on April 9th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Pre-board meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. in conference room in the council chambers of Municipal Building, 85 Mantow Street, Depew, New York, to consider the application of Joshua King on behalf of Strickland Holdings LLC for 3 variances on property located at 4685 Broadway of Chapter 260-27A, parentheses 2, to permit him to construct a parking lot within the required side yard setback. Chapter 260-27A, parentheses 2, to eliminate the landscape requirement for the street frontage on River Street. And Chapter 260-14B, parentheses 1, parentheses G, to request an 8-foot high screening fence surrounding the property as required by village ordinance. Any and all persons interested in such application will be heard at this time. Oh, I'm sorry.
You're good. Please step forward if you're the applicant and tell us your name and what you'd like to do.
Good evening. Joshua King, 41 Jackie Lane. It's kind of weird to stand here and start out with an apology. When we were here back in, I believe it was the January meeting, we had an idea of how the plan was going to work. So once we had the variances approved, we kind of went back to the site and started laying things out, and it didn't work. The right-of-way that we had on paper didn't really match what was in the field. Over the past 60 years, the asphalt's kind of grown and sort of come together with the property. So we sat down with the engineer, sat down with Don, and kind of reworked the general idea. So the variances you see before you today are to allow for parking along River Street to the back of the property, and that's ideally for the customers that are coming in for the automotive portion of the business. And then the 8-foot high fence surrounding the rear of the property is going to be mainly for the towing yard, but it also helps reduce light noise against the neighborhood in itself. And the variance for the landscaping buffer is just to be able to fit the fence, the parking lot, within that constrained right away.
Do any of my fellow board members have questions for the applicant? Members Overhaul, Yarborough? Member Menard?
None from me.
Member Galvin?
None for me.
Any questions, comments, concerns from code?
The only thing that I'm going to point out, and I'm sure we discussed it, but the parking you have extended all the way down to the fence line there. You still require that line of sight, the triangle. So you may lose that end parking space there. We still have to stay out of that area. Okay?
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns from legal?
No, nothing for me.
Okay. Any public questions, comments? Please step forward, sir. Tell us your name
Paul Kemsky, 39 Humboldt Place. My question here, I really don't care what he does with that parking lot. I really don't. The biggest problem we have are the lights. No matter how they put them lights on his building, because of the variance, because of the difference of the height of his property compared to mine on Humboldt, they shine right in my lights, right in my windows. I have cardboard on my windows. I've mentioned this numerous times. No matter how he turns them lights on that building, they're going to be in my windows. That has to, anything else that he does in that parking lot, I have no qualms whatsoever. It's always been about the lights. And apparently, nothing gets done about it. I talked to the building inspector, I invited him in my house, he's seen the lights coming through the windows. I have arched windows. I've been in the house for 35 years. I've been there since the inception of that parking lot. We've never had problems with that parking lot until now.
Real quick.
Go ahead.
So this was addressed under planning board. Once this all comes to fruition here and this is approved, I've already talked to Strickland. They're going to remove the lights from the back of the building that shine down. They're going to install lights on the fence facing towards the parking lot away from his structure, which should alleviate the situation.
So if
Correct? Isn't that what we discussed? Okay.
So if that happens, I mean, I have no qualms. I don't care what he does back there. I don't care how much fence he uses in there, okay? Now, the only other problem I have is he uses up a lot of the right-of-way on River Street. Okay? There is a problem there. He has so many cars there. Sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. But they're parking on that right-of-way.
Okay.
So,
Which this should, the new parking.
This should
schedule,
alleviate
this should
that.
alleviate that situation.
right, so there won't be no more parking on the right-of-way.
Well, first of all, you can park on the right of way, it's not illegal.
Well, he does now.
Pardon?
He does now.
Well, there's no sign there from the police saying no parking, so it's not illegal to do that. Just like they could park in front of our houses, it's not illegal also. That being said, though, there's not gonna be any parking in the right of way, especially down near your house, because that's what he's putting the extra parking spaces for. It's not for storage of vehicles that are waiting to be junked or something like
And
that.
how
That's
far-
what the impound yard's for. This is just overflow
Paul,
for,
have you seen this drawing?
No, I haven't.
oh. I thought you-
Here,
But
here, Paul.
my next question to you, I might as well ask everybody at the same time. When he puts that additional fence inside his parking lot, how far is away is it gonna be from the, how far is it going to be away from the right-of-way?
The street?
Yeah.
How deep is that there? Do you know, Josh, off the top of your head?
This right here is just shy of 30
30
feet.
feet.
Okay. Well, then he isn't
So
gonna be able.
standard parking space is only 22 feet, I believe, so from where the cars pull in, they should still, the back ends of the car should not stick out into the street in any way, shape.
Well, then he won't be able to park his towing vehicles there.
Well, no, you can't park extra long vehicles there, that's a gimme. You know, just,
I mean, they park them in there now, but the point being, he's not gonna be able to do that no more.
once he
He'll be
puts
in
the
the
fence
right-of-way of
up,
the street.
once he puts the fence up, that's, whatever that fence is, you can't park a vehicle from there out into the street, so, yes, you'd be correct.
Right, because they're over 30 feet.
Yeah.
So, that's the only complaints I have. But the main one is the lights. And if he would have removed the lights in the beginning, you wouldn't even seen me, you wouldn't even know who I was. As he can tell you that. So, thank you very much.
All right,
You're
thank
welcome.
you, sir.
I do think it's worth noting that the village mayor, myself, a couple other people had a sit-down meeting with Strickland and Mr. Kemsky to try to talk about this issue with the lighting. And I think Strickland really put their best foot forward in trying to solve this problem. And everyone listened to all of Mr. Kemsky's concerns, and hopefully this new drawing is the fruition of all of that effort. But I don't fault the applicant here at all for trying.
The plan you see in front of you is an outcome of that discussion that we had with Mr. Kemsky, with the mayor, and understanding what the village put forward with the special use permit, what's realistic on the site, but also how do we balance the two uses, the two different businesses that are operating on that property. So we worked with the engineer very closely to come up with a solution before you today.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so with all that, Crystal, do we have any other public comment on this? So with that said, I'm going to read the 6 criteria for an area variance that was filled out as part of the packet that was filled out by the applicant. The questions and the answers given. Number 1, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties be created by granting of the area variance? You wrote, the revised plan will allow for more designated parking for vehicles under repair, allow separation from the tow-in lot, and provide better screening from both sight and light to the adjacent properties, and allow for snow storage on the property. And I find that's true. Number 2, can the benefits sought by you, the applicant, be achieved by some other method other than an area variance? You wrote, given the existing constraints of the property shape, size, existing drainage pattern, and location, no other method exists to balance the requirements of the special use permit with the existing site. I'd say that's true. Third, is the requested area variance substantial? You wrote, the variances requested are minor in nature. The alternative parking arrangement on River Street mirrors the existing parking arrangement, 4699 Broadway property across the street. Okay, and that's true. Fourth, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? You wrote, the variances will have a positive effect on the neighborhood aesthetics, with the higher fence allowing for better screening from the parked vehicles, dumpster, and for a reduction of the impact the security lighting could have on adjacent properties. And that's true. Number 5, is the alleged difficulty self-created? Which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Zoning Board of Appeals, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the requested area variance. You wrote, the variances are a necessity created by the requirements of the MS zoning district, special security screening requirements of the use, and the unique size, shape, location, and adjacent uses of the property. I'm going to say this one's a yes. And lastly, what is the minimum area variance deemed necessary and adequate? You wrote, the requested variances are the minimum necessary to achieve a safe, orderly, and secure balance of uses and uphold the spirit and intent of the zoning law of the Village of Depew. There's probably not numbers for this, right?
Oh, no, there's, well, so
Well, for,
for the fence, they're going
the
from a
fence
6
part.
foot to an 8 foot.
okay, so it's 2 feet.
There's no side yard setback because the fence is not going into the side yard, just the parking. So they're requesting 10 foot, right? There's a 10-foot setback there on the side yard. Requested 10 foot of variance.
I believe so.
Well, whatever the required side yard setback is over there, which I don't have that.
They're going to 0 lot line. So I believe I think it's a 10-foot setback there because it's a vehicle use area.
Okay.
And then there's no number as far as the landscape.
Sure, it's landscape. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, with that said, does one of my fellow board members like to put forth a motion to grant or deny this variance as presented?
I make a motion to grant the variance as presented.
Just to be clear, this is for all 3 variances.
Yes, as presented for all 3 variances, I make a motion to approve.
Motion made by member Menard,
Second.
seconded by member Gallivan. We have a roll call vote, please?
Member Galvin.
Yes.
Member Overholt.
Yes.
Member Menard.
Yes.
Member Yarborough.
Yes.
Acting Chairman Delaney.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next legal notice, whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Please take note that the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Depew will hold a public hearing on April 9th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Pre-board meeting begins at 6:30 p.m. in conference room in the council chambers of the municipal building, 85 Manitow Street, Depew, New York, to consider the application of FQSR LLC on behalf of Foresta for a variance on property located at 535 Dick Road, Chapter 260, 260-26A, parentheses 2, to permit them to relocate their dumpster and place it within the required 10 feet side yard setback as required by village ordinance. Any and all persons interested in such application will be heard at this time.
Hello. Tell us your name and tell us what you'd like to do, please.
My name is Ryan Jordanes on behalf of Marathon Engineering, speaking on behalf of client. So in general, we'd be looking to relocate the existing dumpster enclosure from its current location, kind of in the north portion of the leased NICEAG lot, down to the southern corner, basically near the intersection of Barnabas and Dick Road. In general, that's being driven by NICEAG's requirement for the new lease conditions, making it essentially forcing the current operator of the restaurant to relocate the dumpster enclosure in order to actually achieve that new lease agreement. It's kind of sprung on us fairly recently, so it was kind of a scramble to get everything together. But that's more or less the only change we're looking at. To accommodate this, we are looking at relocating 2 parking spots from their current position down along Barnabas up to the existing dumpster enclosure area.
Excuse me. Any questions from my fellow board members? Members Gallivan and Menard?
None. None from me.
Member Yarborough? Member Overholt?
No.
Any questions, comments, concerns from code?
Nope.
Okay. Anything from legal?
Nothing from me. If this is what you throw together with not much notice, I'd hate to go against you when you have ample time to prepare. This is a very impressive submission.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Indeed. Concur. Any public comments or concerns or questions on this application?
We're next door, so I just want to make sure that when they put this.
Step forward,
Please
please.
come up to the microphone, give us your name and address. Thank you.
I know what's going on the end of my street, but
Could you give us your name and address?
Renee
please?
Sundquist, 10 Barnabas Drive. I'm right next door. My
Thank you,
dad
Ms.
owned the
Sundquist.
house. She's been fighting with KFC for many years. But now that they're moving the dumpster, I just want to make sure it's going to be an eyesore for all my neighbors who are seniors or up in Aurora now. Are we going to see rats? Are we going to see? As long as they keep it clean and the lid's shut and we don't have to call the health department every 5 minutes, I don't mind them being away from my home on the corner of Barnabas. I have no issue. As long as they do what they do to keep a clean neighborhood for all of us, because we keep our homes very, very nice. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to read the 6 criteria for an area variance in New York State as filled out by the applicant. The questions and answers given. Number 1, will an undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties be created by granting of the area variance? You wrote no. As proposed, the dumpster enclosure has been relocated further from the neighboring residents and set a sufficient distance from the adjacent roads to prevent any visual impacts at the intersection. Furthermore, the magnitude and use of the site will not change as a result of the project. The dumpster enclosure location was coordinated with the Erie County DOT and is not anticipated to impact line of sight. And I'd say that's true. Second, can the benefits sought by you, the applicant, be achieved by some other method other than an area variance? You wrote no. The dumpster enclosure currently resides within the parcel leased from NICEAG. NICEAG has made the relocation a requirement of the lease renewal. Considering the limited space available and the neighboring residents, we chose the proposed location to minimize impacts to the greatest extent practicable. I'd say that's true. Third, is the requested area variance substantial? You wrote, as proposed, the provided front setback between the dumpster enclosure, the Barnabas right-of-way line is plus or minus 4 feet. As the minimum required is 30 feet, the variance could be considered substantial but should not preclude the variance approval. The dumpster enclosure location was coordinated with Erie County DOT and is not anticipated to impact line of sight. Okay, so I'd say it is substantial. Fourth, will the proposed area variance have an adverse effect or impact the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? You wrote no. As proposed, the project will add plus or minus 78 square feet of impervious cover associated with the relocated parking spaces and dumpster enclosure. This will have a negligible effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And I'd say it's true. Is the alleged difficulty self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Zoning Board of Appeals, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the requested area variance? You wrote no. As noted above, NICEAG has made the relocation requirement of the lease renewal. Given the spatial limitations of any existing site, and this site in particular, there are no feasible alternatives to the requested variance. Therefore, this difficulty should not be considered self-created, and I'd say that's true. And then, what is the minimum area variance deemed necessary and adequate? The minimum necessary relief from the front setback requirements is 26 feet to allow a setback of 4 feet where 30 feet are required. Given the existing site conditions and the traffic circulation lanes, providing additional setback distance cannot be provided. So it's 26 feet of relief. All right, with that, we have a motion from one of my fellow board members to grant. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to grant the variance.
Okay.
Second.
I'm sorry, who's that? Member Galvin? Okay. Motion made by Member Yarborough, seconded by Member Galvin. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Member Galvin.
Yes.
Member Overholt.
Yes.
Member Bernard.
Yes.
Member Yarborough.
Yes.
Acting Chairman Delaney.
Yes. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. I would note, I don't know if it's important for the record, but I believe after some additional coordination, we believe it's the side setback, not considered front setback, because the primary address is Dick Road as opposed to Barnabas.
Okay, yes.
And that's a 10-foot
foot.
side setback requirement,
Okay.
just so everything's accurate.
So the relief, instead of,
Would be 6 feet instead of 26.
okay.
Yeah, because a residential calls the shorter property to be the front, which is not true with commercial. So
Yes.
that's why I was confused, I believe.
It's not 26 feet. Okay. All right, thank you, sir, for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have a motion to close the hearing?
Make a motion to close the hearing?
Second?
Second.
Motion made by Member Menard, seconded by Member Galvin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hearing's closed.
Meeting closed at 7:22.
Hold up. Problems.
All right,
Wait,
Pat,
hold
good job.
Hold up.
Hold on.
Hang on.